I, Angela Jackson, am 35 years old. As I gazed out the window blurred by the rain, I listened to the sound of my son Jonathan's breathing as he slept in his bed. My 6-year-old son had endured yet another prolonged and exhausting day at the hospital, bravely fighting against his recently diagnosed leukemia. I paused for a moment, taking a slow sip of my coffee, and then I cautiously opened my wallet. Despite having health insurance, the financial burden was still overwhelmingly heavy. My desk was cluttered with stacks of medical bills, and each time I glanced at the staggering figures, a wave of nausea surged through me, twisting my stomach with deepening pain. I had already faced numerous challenges and storms throughout my life. I got married at 25 years old, but when Jonathan was 2 years old, my husband, Patrick, left us. Since then, I have been raising my son alone and working as an accountant to maintain our lives. But this trial was beyond my imagination. The phone rang, and my sister Samantha's name appeared on the screen. I sighed before answering. "You finally picked up. This weekend, Gabriel and I are hosting a dinner party. Can Mark and Nicole stay over?" I closed my eyes. How many times had she asked this? Samantha was a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids, and her husband, Gabriel, worked on Wall Street. They were always busy with trips and social events, taking it for granted that I would always babysit when needed. "Sorry, Samantha. It's not possible right now. Jonathan isn't feeling well." There was silence on the other end. Again. "Angela, we've been planning this party for weeks. Important guests are coming. You know Jonathan has leukemia." I replied, irritation mixing into my voice. "He's in the middle of treatment right now." "Of course, I know. But..." Samantha hesitated. "Can't you ask Mom to take care of him? Both she and Dad say they're busy." I said sarcastically. "Okay." Samantha responded coldly, "I'll look elsewhere." After the call, I covered my tired face with my hands. This was typical of family relationships. I was always the reliable one, contacted only when needed. The next day, I mustered the courage to call my parents. My father, Robert, and mother, Megan, lived in the suburbs. They were retired but busy with activities at the golf club and trips with friends. "Dad," I said nervously. "I need a favor." "What's wrong?" His voice always sounded slightly irritated. "It's about Jonathan's treatment costs. There's a part that isn't covered by insurance. I'm struggling a bit." There was a cough on the other end. "Angela, as you know, we are retired." "I understand," I hurriedly replied. "But it's an emergency. I've started a second job, but it's still not enough. Why can't you manage your life better?" His voice was cold. "It's troubling that you always contact your parents whenever you're in trouble." I held my breath. "What are you talking about? This is the first time I've asked for money. I've always been the one taking care of the family. I've babysat Samantha's kids, organized Mom's birthday parties, and even took care of you after your surgery. That's what you should do as a family," he said, lowering his voice. "Unfortunately, it's impossible right now. We have unexpected expenses too." I held back tears. "I understand." After hanging up, I sat by the window and quietly cried. I was willing to do anything for Jonathan, but I didn't know what to do. I desperately considered my options. After being rejected by my father, it was difficult to ask other relatives. My father had high pride. If he found out I had asked other relatives, I didn't know what he would say. Should I ask friends, take out a loan from the bank, or start crowdfunding? Then, unexpectedly, help arrived. It was a call from my paternal aunt, Kimberly. She was the only one in the family I got along well with. She was single and worked as a professor in distant Seattle. "I heard from Robert about Jonathan's situation," she said. I was surprised. "Dad told you?" "Yes, well, in his own way," Kimberly said meaningfully. "I'll help you. I will pay for Jonathan's treatment," Kimberly said warmly. I was speechless. "But it might cost tens of thousands of dollars. I have enough savings. Besides, this is for my dear niece and her child." Kimberly's voice was warm. "I'll come over this weekend. We can talk about the details then." After hanging up, I cried tears of relief for the first time in weeks. And then the weekend came. I anxiously watched the clock in the airport's arrival lobby. Kimberly's plane was due to arrive soon. Jonathan was feeling relatively well that day, and my friend Tiffany had agreed to take care of him. As I looked up at the flight information board, suddenly, a familiar voice caught my attention. "Mark, put that backpack down. There's plenty of space on the plane." I turned around. There stood my sister Samantha, her husband Gabriel, their 2 children, and my parents. They were all carrying large travel trunks, heading towards the first-class boarding gate. My heart nearly stopped. I hid behind a plant and watched them discreetly. "I've been looking forward to this day. We'll finally relax in Hawaii," Megan said. "We really needed this vacation." "Yeah, indeed." Robert agreed. "Especially after these past few months." I couldn't believe my ears. Just days ago, they had said they couldn't spare a few $1,000s for their grandson's treatment. "Did you tell Angela?" Samantha asked. Megan laughed. "Of course not. She would just complain and make a fuss. She doesn't fit in with us," Samantha scoffed. "Always playing the victim." Hot tears rolled down my cheeks. My chest tightened with pain, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. As they disappeared into the boarding gate, I profoundly understood what I meant to my family. I was just a tool to be used when convenient, someone to call on when needed, but not truly part of the family. Returning to the arrival lobby, Kimberly was already waiting. As I embraced my aunt's warm hug, I tearfully told her everything I had seen. "How could they?" Kimberly said sternly. "I've watched Robert and Megan's behavior for a long time, but this is too much. I feel so foolish," I sobbed. "I've always been there for them." "You are a good person, Angela," Kimberly took my hand. "That's nothing to be ashamed of. But now, you need to stand up for yourself and your son." As we drove to Kimberly's hotel, I pulled out my mobile phone. Out of curiosity, I checked Samantha's Instagram. There was already a post. It was a photo of the family smiling at the boarding gate, with the caption, #family, vacation. #first class. #Royal, Hawaiian, hotel. #suite room. I stared blankly at the screen. The Royal Hawaiian. One of the most expensive hotels on the island. The cost for one night could easily cover part of Jonathan's treatment expenses. "I wonder if they planned this trip after finding out about Jonathan's illness," I said with a trembling voice. Kimberly pursed her lips. "Your parents and sister have always prioritized themselves. It's time to hold them accountable." The weekend with Kimberly was an eye-opening experience. She not only offered to help with Jonathan's treatment costs but also encouraged me to reevaluate my relationship with my family. "You're not their servant, Angela," Kimberly said. "It's time to set boundaries." I pondered this in Jonathan's hospital room. He was sleeping, his complexion pale, but the doctors were optimistic about the treatment. My phone had several missed calls from my mother. Clearly, they hadn't realized I had seen them at the airport. I decided to answer. "Angela, where are you?" "I've called several times," Megan said in an accusatory tone. "There was a delivery scheduled for today. Could you pick it up for us? We'll be away from home for a while." "Hello, Mom. Indeed, you won't be able to pick it up. By the way, how's the weather in Hawaii?" I asked calmly. There was silence on the other end of the phone. "What do you mean?" Megan's voice suddenly tensed. "I know you're staying at the Royal Hawaiian," I said. "I saw it on Samantha's Instagram." "Oh," Megan tried to regain her composure. "Yes, that's right. Gabriel got the tickets suddenly from a business contact, and he gifted them to us. We had no reason to refuse." "Mom, why are you lying?" My voice trembled. "I saw all of you at the airport when I went to pick up Kimberly. You can't be serious." Megan was at a loss for words. "I heard everything you said about me," I continued. "That I don't fit in. Am I an embarrassment to you, or just a convenient tool?" "Angela, calm down," Megan commanded. "It's a misunderstanding." "I'm not misunderstanding anything." My voice grew stronger. "A few days ago, you and Father said you couldn't afford a few $1,000s to save my son's life. But you can afford a first-class trip to Hawaii. That's different." "No, it's exactly that. I've always been there for the family. I've looked after Samantha's children, helped with your housework, and even took care of Dad when he was suddenly ill. But when I really needed you, you were nowhere to be found. You're just running away from your own responsibilities," Megan said angrily. "It's not our fault you became a single mother." I was hurt by her words but stood firm. This isn't about my choices. This is about my son's life. And I've finally understood. You don't love us. That's ridiculous. No, it's the truth. So from now on, I will prioritize myself and my son. I'm done being your handyman. What are you talking about? Megan's voice mixed with anxiety. I'm not doing any more babysitting, housework, or caregiving, I stated firmly. I have my own life. Are you planning to abandon your family? Megan was furious. Family? I laughed bitterly. You were the ones who abandoned me and Jonathan. I hung up the phone. My hands were trembling, but my heart was filled with resolve. Minutes later, Samantha called. How could you say such things to Mom? Samantha shouted. My son is fighting leukemia, and you all went on a luxury trip to Hawaii, I said calmly. And you still think I'm the bad one? You always play the victim, Samantha snapped. We're free to do what we want with the money we earn. Of course. But then, stop using me as a maid and a free babysitter. What are you talking about? From now on, solve your own problems. You can't rely on me anymore. Don't joke around. Samantha's voice was sharp. You're supposed to always be there for the family. No, I'm here for Jonathan. He's my only priority. Samantha was silent for a moment, then said threateningly, You're going to regret this. I regret that I didn't realize this sooner, I replied. I hung up the phone and took a deep breath. I vowed never to be used by my family again. Meanwhile, Kimberly was proactive. After hearing my story, she contacted her father, my grandfather, Nathan Jackson. Nathan was living a wealthy retirement, and much of his estate was eventually supposed to be inherited by his children. My parents' ability to live a wealthy life was largely due to his assets. Nathan, who heard the story from Kimberly, was furious. He immediately called his lawyer and changed his will. The inheritance for Robert and Megan is completely revoked, Nathan said sternly. Instead, allocate that portion to Angela and Jonathan. Nathan instructed, surprising me with his decision. You don't have to do that, Grandpa, I protested. Yes, it's necessary, Nathan insisted stubbornly. If a family doesn't respect each other, it can hardly be called a family. Your father has always been financially irresponsible. He has squandered the wealth I passed down to him. And now, he won't even help his own grandson. I cannot forgive that. Nathan took it a step further. He called Robert directly and ordered him to return from Hawaii immediately for a meeting. 2 days later, that meeting sparked fireworks. Nathan not only informed Robert and Megan of the will changes but also expressed his profound disappointment in their actions. He called in Samantha and her family too, confronting everyone with the truth. It seems I've lived too long just to witness the shame of this family, Nathan said sadly. My son and daughter-in-law refuse to help with their own grandson's medical expenses. Robert tried to defend himself. Dad, you're misunderstanding the situation. We were just. I am not misunderstanding anything, Nathan interrupted sternly. Kimberly has told me everything. How much Angela has done for you all, and how you've treated her. Megan began to cry. We just took a vacation. Is that so wrong? Choosing a luxury vacation while your grandson's life is at stake, yes, that is wrong, Nathan declared. Especially when you're doing it behind Angela's back and then badmouthing her. Samantha's face turned red. She always makes herself out to be the victim. In fact, she has sacrificed herself for you all, Nathan stated calmly. And this is how you repay her. I've heard enough of your opinions, Nathan stood up. My decision stands. Angela and Jonathan are my heirs. You all need to face the consequences of your actions. From that day, the family's dynamics began to crumble rapidly. Cut off from Nathan's financial support, Robert and Megan soon faced financial difficulties. They had depended on Nathan's aid for years, and now, without it, they struggled with their mortgage payments. Samantha was in the same boat. She and Gabriel had maintained a lifestyle reliant on Nathan's funding. Gabriel's salary was decent, but not enough to support their spending habits. I continued my life quietly. Jonathan's treatment progressed well, and he gradually recovered. Kimberly kept her promise to pay for the treatment and even provided funds for us to move into a better apartment. Weeks later, Robert called me. Angela, his voice was weary. We need to talk. About what? I asked calmly. We're struggling, he admitted. The bank has warned us of foreclosure. Can you negotiate with Nathan? I looked up at the ceiling. Why ask me? You should speak to Grandpa directly. Samantha can help you too. He isn't responding to our calls. Samantha is struggling too, Robert explained. She and Gabriel are constantly arguing. That's their problem, I said coldly. Angela, we're your family, Robert pleaded. Can't you forgive everything and help us again? Family. I laughed bitterly. A real family supports each other. Where were you when my son was sick? That was a mistake. I admit it, Robert sounded resigned. But now we need your help. No, Dad, I said firmly. I'm not going to be used by you anymore. Solve your own problems. Angela. I have a son. He's my priority. Goodbye, Dad. I hung up the phone and felt a surge of liberation rising within me. A few days later, Samantha showed up at my apartment. "What's gotten into you?" Samantha shouted as soon as she entered the room. "Not helping our parents." I responded calmly. "You didn't help my son." "That's different." "No, it's exactly the same," I said. "While you were enjoying your luxurious trip to Hawaii, I was struggling with whether my son would live or die. And now you expect my help. Don't make me laugh. I've spent all my savings for our parents." Samantha screamed. "Gabriel is talking about divorce." "That's your problem," I said calmly. "It has nothing to do with me." "You're cruel," Samantha showed her anger and fear. "No, you are the cruel ones," I said quietly. "You couldn't endure for a few weeks what I've been putting up with for years. Accept the consequences of your actions, Samantha." After a silence, Samantha said, "You're going to regret this," and left the apartment. But I had no regrets. Instead, I felt a peace I hadn't experienced in years. As time passed, the pressure from my family gradually lessened. Maybe they realized that neither Nathan, Kimberly, nor I would change our minds despite any pressure. Eventually, Robert and Megan had to sell their house and move into a smaller apartment. Samantha and Gabriel had to adapt to a more modest lifestyle as well. I occasionally heard about them through mutual acquaintances, but I had cut off all contact with them. At first, I felt guilty, but that feeling faded over time. Jonathan's treatment went well, and a year later, he went into remission. Listening to the doctor's explanation, I felt hopeful for the first time. One day, Kimberly visited. She had recently retired and was considering moving closer to Jonathan and me. "You two are my family," Kimberly said warmly. "I want to be close to you guys." I was overwhelmed with gratitude. For the first time in my life, I understood the true meaning of family. It wasn't just about blood relations, but about supporting, respecting, and loving each other. "Hey, look," I said while sitting on the sofa, showing her a recent photo of Jonathan. He was standing with a smile against a backdrop of the sea on a school trip. "Jonathan is really strong. Just like you," Kimberly smiled. "He has the same strength and determination." I blushed. I would do anything to protect Jonathan. "But now, it's time to think a little about yourself," Kimberly said. "I've seen you sacrifice yourself for so long. For Robert and Megan, for Samantha, and now for Jonathan. But what about your own life?" I stared out the window. "Honestly, I don't know. I've always been focused on others." "It's a chance for a new start," Kimberly suggested. "If I'm here, I can help look after Jonathan sometimes. You could start something new." Her words sparked something in me. For a long time, I had suppressed my own dreams and desires. Now, I finally had the freedom to pursue them. A few weeks later, I made a significant decision. Using my skills as an accountant, I decided to start a nonprofit organization to support single parents facing their children's illness or other crises. The organization aimed to provide financial and emotional support to them. "Maybe that's what I really need to do," I excitedly told Kimberly. Using my experience to help other parents in similar situations. Kimberly said proudly, "You've always been strong. But now, you're giving strength to others." The foundation grew rapidly. With Nathan's support, we established a presence in the community. Local media coverage helped attract many donations and support. One day, when I got home from work, I found an elegant envelope in the mailbox. The sender was Samantha. Hesitantly, I opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. "Dear Angela, I want to apologize for not being in touch for a long time. This past year has been an eye-opening experience for me. It took me a while to realize that everything you said was right. I was self-centered and lacked compassion. I couldn't understand your situation. Now, being in a similar position myself, I finally understand the extent of your struggles. Gabriel and I are separated, and for the first time, I am forced to stand on my own 2 feet. Living with just my children and me is not easy. But perhaps this was the lesson I needed to learn. I heard about Jonathan. I'm glad he's doing well. As always, you found a way to overcome adversity and become stronger. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I just want to acknowledge that you were right. And if there comes a time when we can meet, I hope to be a better sister. With love, Samantha. I read the letter several times. A mix of emotions swirled within me, anger, sadness, and somewhere deep down, a sense of relief. I didn't reply immediately. I needed time. But that letter changed something in me. It wasn't complete forgiveness but a step towards understanding. A few days later, after dropping Jonathan off at school, I sat on the balcony with a cup of coffee. My cell phone rang, and it was an unknown number. Hello? Angela, it was Megan's voice. Please, don't hang up. I tensed up. What do you want? I just wanted to talk. Megan's voice was softer than before. I heard Samantha wrote you a letter. Yes. I want to apologize too. Megan stumbled over her words. We were terrible to you. We only thought of ourselves. I remained silent. I want to see you and Jonathan, Megan continued. Of course, only if you're okay with it. I thought for a long time. My family had hurt me deeply. But they too had suffered and learned. Reconciliation would take time, but perhaps there was no need to keep the door closed forever. I'll think about it, I finally said. I can't promise anything soon. But maybe someday. That's enough, Megan's voice carried a sense of relief. I'll wait. After hanging up, I looked up at the sky again. If my family were to return to my life, it would have to be under new terms. I can't yet imagine what form that might take. Full reconciliation might be difficult. But now, I truly feel alive in my own life. I used to live always for others, but now I can prioritize my own and my son's happiness. There must be a way to interact with my family without sacrificing myself, setting boundaries along the way. Maybe it's okay to explore a new form of family. Life isn't perfect. I took a sip of coffee and smiled. Tomorrow is a new day. And whatever it brings, I am ready.